Welcome guys to the online session of the topic transmission system. In the previous class we have gone through the topics like for the unit number 4 the clutches and then gearboxes, and now we'll go on to the transmission system of the rest of the topic of unit number 4, and there is another topic which is left out in the brakes. Those topic we'll discuss in the next class for the complete session of the brakes. So with that, unit number 4 will be completed. As I've earlier mentioned, such a like weightage of this unit is more when you compare it with the rest of the units, and in this unit particularly the very small topic which is for the transmission system of topics like propeller shaft, differential, universal joint, there is more number of questions which has been asked. Going with the simple topic you can score more marks, which you have more weightage. That's the case, please pay attention with this topic. So now we'll start with the transmission system of your topics. Like the topics which you are going to learn in today's class is the contents like universal joint, propeller shaft, differential and transfer box and four-wheel drive. So let's start first with the universal joint. So coming to the universal joint, as like when you have your transmission system which is initially starting from your engine power, after that you have your clutch which has been positioned in between your gearbox and then engine, in which we have already learned about the working mechanism of your clutch, in which it is engaging and disengagement of your power transmission, and then later we have learned about the gearbox which has been transferred your power from your clutch shaft onto the gearbox, in which the torque variation and the speed variation which will take place in case of your gearbox. Later after your gearbox you have your one shaft which has been positioned to transfer your power from your front to your rear wheels, in which the case of your front wheel drive where your engine is positioned on your front, in which the power which has been produced is been transferred with the help of your propeller shaft which is generally present. So for that propeller shaft you have your shaft which has been laid at certain angle, which is usually coupled with the help of your universal joint, and from this the power has been transferred into differential, and then it is equally distributing your power from your differential to your rear wheels, and then your rear wheels moves when which your front wheel follows your rear. So this is the complete mechanism of your working from your front to rear wheels, in which we will be learning in detail about the universal joint, what are its functions, what is a propeller shaft, what is its functions, and what is differential, what is its function, how it is working, and next what is four-wheel drive, what is two-wheel drive, how it is working, what is the use of transfer box in a four-wheel drive. All these topics we will be learning in today's session. So coming to the first one, universal joint, it is like a shape of a U joint, in which generally we also say it as a hook joint, which is actually a kind of a linkage which transmits a rotation between two non-parallel shaft, which the axes are actually coplanar, or it is not coinciding, and which is actually this is used in a power transmission, in which you have your rotary motion, which is used in all your automobiles. It transmit for your power from your gearbox to the engine and then to a rear axle. This shaft actually rotates at a uniform angular speed, where your driven shaft rotates at continuously varying angular speed. So coming to this, the points which is listed over here, this allows your driving torque to be carried through two shafts that are at an angle with each other. The simple universal joints which consists of two Y-shaped yokes, I'll show you the figure after this, one of the driving and other of the driven shaft. The four arms of your spider are usually assembled in needle bearings in their two yokes. So the two tornons of your spider that cause a driven yoke to rotate. When the two shafts are at an angle with each other, the needle bearing will permit the yoke to swing around the trunnions with each revolution. Generally, a simple universal joint doesn't transmit the motion uniformly when the shafts are operating at an angle. Because of this, these two universal joints are used in a vehicle, one between the gearbox and another between the propeller shaft. So that is about the universal joint. So the majorly when this two shafts which is usually which is made at an angle, that is very important, that is usually done with the help of your universal joint, that is at 180 degrees, in which your drive shaft doesn't rotate with your angular constant angular speed in relation with your drive shaft, where it moves with your 90 degrees to your movement, which is actually given towards your shaft when actually you have your locking with the help of this inversal joint. However, your overall speed of the driven shaft remains same as of your driving shaft. Generally your speed of this ratio will be 1:1. So that is about your inversal joint. So usually this universal joint is very important. That question will be asked in your exam, like what is universal joint, what is the role of it, or what is the functions of your universal joint. This would be the question expected. And next, the very important thing is the propeller shaft. So what is a propeller shaft and what are its uses? This propeller shaft is actually connected from your gearbox onto your final drive, which is also called this one as a drive shaft. So here this propeller shaft also consists of your drive shaft, universal joints, and also your slip joints. This major important application of this is to transfer the power from your gearbox to your output shaft, that is your differential. So this is actually supported by a rubber mounting bearing. This propeller shaft is rigid enough to absorb any kind of twisting action to your driving torque, and any kind of torsional shocks or vibrations which has been provided, which will be absorbed by this propeller shaft. And this major important material of the propeller shaft should absorb this torsional vibration. It should be higher in strength, and also it should resist any kind of vibrations which has been provided by the vehicle. And coming to the propeller shaft, which we have tubular shaft, which is weightless, which can have a good torsional strength, and which provides a less resistance to your angular speed, which is usually caused by your hook type coupling. Excuse me. So what is your working? Coming to the working, which is used to transmit your power from one of your gearbox onto your what you call differential to the final drive. And it should be strong enough, and it should majorly it should forge steel which should have higher strength, and which should also provide the good rigidity to maintain your bearing alignment under your different torques. So usually your drive shaft, which is generally present here, will be hollow in order to maintain your weight to be less, because major criteria is weight. If it is less in weight, then it provides your good strength, and then also which will be very strong enough with a good quality material. And usually the materials which we use for this propeller shaft may be steel, or sometimes right now if you want the lightweight, generally we will be going with aluminium. This the shaft should be straight enough, and should be good balanced with the help of your universal joints in order to avoid any kind of vibration shocks which has been provided by your vehicle. Usually it turns the engine speeds, and whatever the kind of damage which has been caused by the shaft should be unbalanced, or it should be bent. Whatever the damage which has been caused is usually it will worn out the whatever the universal joint which has been attached onto your propeller shaft. So in case of this drive shaft of your propeller shaft, there are two different kinds of drive, where one will be, which we generally say it as a Hotchkiss drive, or another will be a torque tube drive. So this I'm not going in detail about the case of your Hotchkiss drive, how does it work, and torque tube drive, how does it work, but you should have a brief understanding about the Hotchkiss drive and the torque tube drive. This Hotchkiss drive is also kind of your drive shaft, which is actually connected to transmission of your output shaft and the differential pinion gear. This Hotchkiss drives will transfer your torque of your output shaft to your differential. That is a main function of your Hotchkiss drive. When there is no wheel drive, usually the thrust whatever which is present will be sent to your drive shaft. So the two piece whichever it is present will be dust proof, in which it supports your center of your shaft. That is a major another one of the function of this drive tube, maybe a Hotchkiss or maybe a torque tube drive. So if you go on to the next one, the torque tube drive, this is also a kind of shaft which is used in a drive shaft to carry the wheel drive thrust. It is also a hollow tube one which extends from your transmission to your rear axle housing. So at one end it has been fastened to the axle housing by bolts, another end has been fastened with the help of your torque ball. So this drive shaft, which generally it fits onto the torque tube, and an universal joint is also located in the torque ball. So this drive shaft, which is generally produced, will be transmitted through the torque tube to the torque ball, and then to the transmission, and then to the engine finally. So that is with the help of this, the car is being pushed forward with help of the torque tube pressing one of the engine. So this is one of the major working and then functions of your torque tube one. So next, coming on to the functions of your propeller shaft. This is a major important question which has been repetitively asked in the exam. What are the functions of the propeller shaft? The major function of the propeller shaft is to transmit your power from one to the another in a smooth and continuous action, and another function is to absorb the shocks and vibrations which has been produced by the vehicle, and next is to operate constantly by changing the relative angles which has been transmitted, and next is it should also be capable of changing the length while transmitting the torque, and the axle of the vehicle is not attached directly to the frame, but it has been suspended by a spring in a regular floating motion. So these are all the major functions of your propeller shaft. And next, coming to the other topic is differential. This is very important one. Coming to the differential, majorly is differential is a part which has been fixed at the rear end of your vehicles. In case of your two-wheel drive, or your front or maybe your rear, you will be having only one differential, where in case of your four-wheel drive, if you go with the all-wheel drive, you'll be having two differentials, one which has been fixed at the front end, another which has been fixed at the rear end. So what is the major use of the differential is such a way, like when the power which has been transmitted from your gearbox onto the propeller shaft, and then from propeller shaft to your differential, these differential will distribute the power equally to both the wheels, and such a way, like this is one of the important major use of the differential, as well as when your vehicle is making a turn, maybe into the left or maybe a right. For let's say if you take a left turn, you have your inner wheels and your outer wheels, where in case of your inner wheels, when you are making a left turn, will be on the left side, which will make a rotation which will rotate slower than the outer wheels, in which the outer wheels for your case of your left turn will be a right one, which makes more faster rotation than your inner wheels. In such a way, you make a turn of your vehicle. Suppose if there is no differential in that case of your vehicle, if the power is not in that similar way, if it is equally distributed, and if it makes your inner wheel rotating with the same speed of your outer wheel, or maybe if your inner wheel is rotating much faster than your outer wheel, then your vehicle will skid and it will not take a turn, your vehicle will fall. That is the role of your differential. So to make your avoiding of your skidding of your vehicle, and to make proper turn of your vehicle, the differential will play a major role. So in case of your two-wheel drive, maybe in a front or rear wheel, you will be having only one differential which is fixed at the end, such a way, like you can make a turn in maybe in a left or right, or maybe in any condition, but when you have your four-wheel drive, the major function is such a way, like if your vehicle has been traveling maybe in a skiddy areas, or maybe in a wet conditions, or maybe in a mud, that may not be in a position. If one of your wheel has been stuck in case of your mud, then other wheel is in the outer one, then your vehicle will be stuck and it may not be in a position to lift. So because you have only one differential in which your power is not equally being transmitted, and In that case, if you go with the four-wheel drive, such a way like the torque which has been transmitted and which will be equally distributed, and such a way like when it has been equal distribution of your all four wheels will be rotating on its own motion. So such a way like if you travel in your skiddy areas, mud or water, anywhere, you will be in a position to run your vehicle. So that is a major difference. Advantage is such a way like if you go with the four-wheel drive, you can move at any all-terrain conditions also, but major problem is cost and maintenance is a major problem with that. So in detail we'll learn about this next in the coming slide. So coming to the differential, it is a kind of variety of a gearbox which is almost used in one of the two ways. One is like to receive you one input and provide two outputs, and another one is to rotate at different speed while supplying equal torque to one of them. So that is one of the important parameter in your vehicle, which is the component transfer the engine power, which is to your wheels. The power has been transferred by a rear wheel propeller shaft to first by changing the direction with the help of your differential rotation. So we will go in detail about the differential one. Such a way like you can observe the figure over here. That is like you have your propeller shaft, inner shaft and outer shaft, and the larger gear and small gear. When you have your crown wheel, bevel, pinion, small gear, rotating cage, large gear, all those things which you have in this case. Excuse me. Where your pinion drive gear is usually used for transferring power from drive shaft to the ring gear, and rear drive axle is usually kind of a transfer torque from your differential assembly to your drive wheel, and ring gear will transfer power to a differential case majorly, and spider gear is usually, this is major important in case of your differential, which we generally say is the heart of your differential, which transfer your motion, which is made of about any kind of rotation, and differential cage is a holding one, which is actually a protecting one. So here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different kinds of gears. One is two larger gear, and one is your pinion gear, and another one is two small gears, and another one is the bevel crown wheel. Okay, so which in case of your differential we usually use epicyclic gearbox. So coming to the working of your differential, well, we're taking a turn, inner and outer wheels has a different turning, where inner wheels will travel lesser distance than of your outer wheels, which you can observe the figure over here. The spider gear, which is generally present in the is connected with the ring gear, in which the power flows to it, and at last it transfer onto the side gears. So here is another view of your differential unit, which is generally present, you can observe over here. So here the spider gears which is present over here will rotate along with the ring gear, but doesn't rotate on its own axis. So this spider gear which is generally present, it will push and make the side gears turn, and both will turn the same speed. So while making a turn, maybe for example if you take a right turn, so in this the spider gear is having a combined rotation, which you can observe the figure over here. This will be spinning as well as rotating the peripheral velocity, in which left side of your gear is usually a sum of your spinning and rotational velocity, and right side is a difference of two spin velocity and opposite direction one. So the major purpose of this differential is used to avoid skidding of your rail, road turning one, and also reduces the speed of your inner wheel and increase the speed of your wheel, and also it keeps your equal speed of all your vehicle wheels which moving on a straight road, and it also eliminates your single rigid axle and provides a coupling between your two axles. That is a major purpose of your differential one. So here is you have your planet gear and bevel pinion, which is a major one, which has been provided with a crown wheel. So this rotation is been usually provided with the help of your bevel pinion one. So this ring gauge is usually attached to the carrier one, if you can observe the figure over here, which is usually called as a spider one. So this bevel gear meshes with your two neighbor gears, which rotates your counter and it does not mesh with each other. So this change of your spider gates are aligned in your same axis as ring gear, and it drives the half shaft which is connected to your vehicle what you call driven wheels. And what is the other functions of your differential is, first is the speed reduction, and next is your the what you have more contact area compared of your high powered gear. Another function of differential is to turn the power flow direction by 90 degrees. And coming to the other one, very important one, is transfer box. Usually this transfer box is provided in case of your four-wheel drive, in which the transfer box is usually mounted on the side or maybe a rear of your main transmission one. This is usually used for power transmission to the front as well as your rear drive shaft, because in case of your four-wheel drive you have two differentials which has been fixed at the front and the rear. This will be acting as an emergency or maybe a variation of your what do you call in case of your all-wheel drive, which will increase your vehicle traction as well as handling ability in case of rain, snow, or maybe off-road driving. Apart from the transfer box of using your four-wheel drive, there is also traction controller which is usually used in some kinds of your differential, in which if you cannot afford with a two differential one, you generally use most of the common cases of differential we use is open differential one. So there is also traction controller which we use in case of your two-wheel drive apart from your differential, in which you can run your vehicle in skidding areas or maybe in a mud, in which it provides your traction to both all the wheels, in which it can lift the load and it can supply the power equally. So that is a different topic. Keeping it aside, let's move on for the transfer box, in which the transfer box, we say it as a central differential, which is the major purpose is to transfer the power for your differential. That is a major important operation of the case of your transfer box. And next is the four-wheel drive, and which previously which I have told you, for the case of your two-wheel drive you have your front wheel drive or maybe a rear wheel drive based on your position of your engine, where in case of your two-wheel drive, which you do not have all your four wheels rotating on its own axis, where if it has been stuck in case of your muds or maybe in wetty areas, that may not be controlled with your two-wheel drive. When you go with a four-wheel drive, is you have a choice of operation whether to go with a two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, where you will be having a two differentials one. This is usually, it has main advantages like traction and handling is improved, and it is used for transmitting the torque to all the four wheels. Only major disadvantages is like higher cost, and the weight is a major one, and it requires the special maintenance for the case of your four-wheel drive. That is a major problem for the case of your four-wheel drive. And with this I'll stop with the topic of your Propeller transmission one, which is generally present in unit number 4, and we are left with only topic of unit number 4 and brakes, that I will do in the next class. With that, unit number 4 is done, and I will go with the unit number 5 in the next class, which is a simple topic and which is also one of the very important one. So by this I'm done with the topic of your transmission one. Still, if you have any doubts, you can post me in the Google Classroom or maybe in a message. So that I hope I am clear with this topic. Thank you for going through the online video session. Thank you.